Hello again from Elation Productions. Today I'm going to show you my sandblasting cabinet project, which I finally finished up. This cabinet here, this started out as a cabinet my friend initially bought for grout work working on glass, and it didn't work out for him very well. It's just a cheapie, about $120 cabinet you can buy off of eBay. Just a real simple thing, and this was a benchtop model too. And initially it had just some short little legs, and it had a short little, it wasn't even a funnel, it was more of a trough and only about 4 inches deep for a hopper for the sand. And he bought a new one and gave me this old one, and I started out to rebuild it to make it work a little bit better for my needs, so I could have a smaller cabinet for using glass beads for very fine finishing processes, and have a separate cabinet loaded up with something more abrasive such as crushed glass or garnet, or I have a mix of glass and garnet at the moment for removing rust very quickly. Anyways, he got himself a very top of the line cabinet and let me have this cheapy one for free. So what I did was initially I started out, I put regular full-length legs on it so it reaches the floor. It's a full freestanding cabinet now, opposed to the benchtop model it started out as. Because it was big enough as it is, I didn't really have any benches to stick it under, so it wasn't going to be saving me any space anyways. So that's what I initially did. I bought some pieces of, I believe these are 1.5" by 3/16 thick aluminum, make for very nice sturdy legs there. And I just drilled holes and bolted it onto the side of the cabinet to prop it up higher. And initially I started using it that way, also with this retrofit foot pedal and a replacement blaster gun for it too. There was a older, it was a Traeger style, it had a trigger right here on the gun itself, and it was all jammed up. It was just a real cheap thing, and I don't know if there was too big of a gap somewhere or another where it got media into it. It was all jammed up and nasty, so I did a real quick cheap conversion with a just regular blower head type that's got a carbide tip on it for wear resistance, and I made up my own little foot pedal you see here. This is a $5 I believe I got at Lowe's special. That's all it is a just a regular air hose, just a blower nozzle, and it fits onto a 1/4 inch pipe thread. So I just took a short pipe nipple and I welded it to just a couple fairly heavy chunks of steel I had, and just fit it up so it held the blower upright. And you can see here I just kind of step on it like that. And it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, and I'd like to make up something a little bit nicer in the future, but I didn't feel like paying $150 for real high-end US made foot pedal, which is what I would want. But for $5 I figured I'd make a cheap retrofit that works for now. So anyways, I start out with that, with the legs and the new air nozzle setup. And then also I drilled out the back side, because the back side had a very small hole in it which was restricting airflow. It was only like 1.25 inches or something tiny, and you can see here I drilled it out to I think it's about 3 inches, 2.5, 3 inches, and I built and put on a little air diverter too, so it sucks it up from here but diverts it down to the bottom. So we're drawing air in from this corner, and completely diagonally we're going over to the other corner of the box, so we have the maximum airflow across the whole enclosure there, instead of like it originally was, starting out of the top and then going over to this corner of the top. That's where the original vacuum port was. It's just a small vacuum port for a shop vac, and I have it converted now with an adapter for a closing gate so I can adjust the airflow on it, and it fits up my big dust collector I have here, which I also use on my other cabinet. in the future I'd like to set up a T-splitter so I have both of them hooked up simultaneously, and I can divert some of the vacuum pressure over to the other cabinet too. That's one of the problems I initially have and still have with it, is the vacuum system actually seems to draw too much air where it wants to suck a lot of the media away. But anyways, initially my first step for fixing this up were those couple of things, and the original trough just wasn't working for this. It was only about 4 inches deep, and it didn't really go down to a center point. It was all the way across the bottom of the cabinet here, and it came down a little bit of a taper, but not much of one. So you had to have a lot of media in there for it to pick anything up, and it didn't want to come back down automatically to the pickup tube. So I ran that for a little while, and I got tired of it because it didn't work for feeding. So this is the last and hopefully the final major reconstruction on this cabinet, is this big funnel I have here. This goes down about 18 inches in comparison to the 4 originally was, so it keeps my media away from the airflow of the nozzle itself, so it's not being blown all over the cabinet creating more dust needlessly. And it also comes down to feed at a very fine point. You see at the end there I have this little box. It tapers down to about 3 inches long by, I believe it's 2.5 inches wide by 1 inch. So there's it's about a handful or two of sand is all it takes to fill that little space in the bottom there, which helps to feed quite a bit. And I got this, I got a little wing nut here, and its hinge door will come open. I just got some foam to keep the sand in place, and it seems to work very well. But as you can see, you can sort of see through the grates, I have a copper pipe now for a feed pipe going up to the blaster nozzle, and that goes down to that very fine taper, so it all feeds extremely well now. And there's still a few things I want to improve on this, and some things to be modified still. The lights are decent. They just got this LED bar. This is the stock what came with the thing. I'd like to have see if I can find some small strips to actually stick underneath the lip of the cabinet here, probably all the way around, so I have nice uniform lighting instead of having a lot of glare like I do now. It's not terrible, it's usable, but it could be better, so in the future I plan to improve that. I also would like to put some nicer top on here, because this is kind of all scratched up and it's got a lot of cracks in it too, like it wasn't drilled properly from the factory. And the plexiglass tends to crack if it's not drilled right. I'll fix that up in the future, and like I said, I'd like to have a T-splitter too, so I can divert the two cabinets and actually reduce the amount of airflow going through this cabinet without putting a strain on my dust collector by just closing up the blast gate and restricting flow. Rather divert it instead. Also, one of the other things I did, add a little bit, I have a built-in regulator to this cabinet too, so I can set for whatever I want and leave it there, and just plug in our main shop air when I need it. And in this little, I got a T-fitting brass block I built for screwing onto the leg and for diverting off a blow hose too. So if I want to blow parts off when I'm done blasting them, I've got that close at hand. And that's pretty much it. Overall, I'm very, very pleased with how it turned out. Cabinet works much better than it did initially, and I didn't spend a whole lot of money either on it, just a cheapy box. All I did seem to rebuild practically maybe half or 3/4 of the thing. There's not many original parts left on it, but it seems like it works real well, and it saved me a little time over, I suppose, trying to build the whole thing from scratch. So anyways, that's basically it. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to leave those below. I appreciate that. Any suggestions for future videos you'd like to see would also be welcome. Until next time, thanks for watching.